We never can tell because the things plenty. We told you last time when Mr. Oluseyi Odunfuwa came that we were going to be looking at some of the policies of this administration and how they are being implemented. If they are being implemented the way they ought to be implemented, because some of them were not feeling at all. And he said, okay, right, let's run through them and let people have them back of their hands so they can always pick that sheet of paper and look at it, say, wait, Shebi, this is how are they doing it, right? So we know what is and what isn't. He is Managing Director, Capital Plus Limited. Welcome again to VOP 90.3 FM.
It's beautiful to be here again. Our world acclaimed presenter.
Not today. See the hype now.
Nice to have me. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming today. Right, last time we started and we're talking about some of the things, what we wanted to talk about, we even digressed and we ended up here. Now let's start off. We'll be looking at the policies of this administration. We'll take them step by step. Cool. Let's start off from the area of education. We'll do education first. And you know, it had been in the news recently, especially one of the policies the minister just came up with, that no, it has been there forever. We're just only going to implement. And somebody has even sued the policy that you must be 18 years before you go to write WAEC and get into the university. The ministry itself should be answering that. But generally, what is the plan of this administration for education according to the policies they have?
Okay, so that's beautiful. Like you rightly said, the minister should be communicating with the people. But I strongly feel that the educational sector is not properly managed as we speak. The decadence in that sector has been prevalent for, God knows since when. But coupled with plenty of policy somersaults in that sector, once a minister, there's no blueprint, maybe a 20 years blueprint for the educational sector of Nigeria. Once a minister comes, he rolls up his own personal beliefs and policies, and it derails the trajectory of the previous one. So I think Nigeria needs a master plan for education. The educational industry of India, for instance, creates over 40% of GDP. In the US, in the UK, the foreign students that go to the UK for tertiary education, it's not less than about 15 billion every year. When I say billion, I mean 15 billion pounds every year. I'm talking of foreign students from India, from Nigeria, from China, and from everywhere. And so, but Nigeria plays a significant role there. Out of that figure, Nigeria plays almost 40% of that figure. And so we help other countries to grow their own GDP, while our own educational sector does not have a blueprint. We all know that before now, in the 80s, people from the UK even come to our university, especially University of Ibadan, to come and study. But right now, the trajectory is quite poor. And I think looking at this current Minister of Education, there's no clear-cut blueprint to where we want to go to. I think, number one, funding is a major bane for our federal tertiary institutions. Funding is a major bane. But apart from funding too, look at the mindset of an ordinary Nigerian in terms of education. In most cases, we are losing it. And I want to tell you, in the next 10 years, it is going to go comatose completely in the next 10 years, according to projection. Because as we speak now, capital flight, brain drain that is happening right now is at an alarming rate. You have, in some federal hospitals, you have one doctor to almost 2,000 patients because of the flight, of which...
It's even more, one doctor to almost 200,000.
Beautiful. So if you look at that, the Mr. President needs to, declare an emergency in our educational sector. Like minds need to come together and form a blueprint that will last us for the next 20 years.
Let me take let me come in a little bit before you leave there, because you just talked about a blueprint.
Yes.
Blueprint, and some policies were recently, brought forward for the overhauling of the sector, that's education sector, and there was something that they've given the acronym DOTS to, DOTS, and it is representing Data Repository Out of School Children Education, Teacher Training and Development, and Skill Development and Acquisition, right? And one major thing about this is the fact that for children who are out of school, we do not really have a data. As for the children who are out of school, the only thing now, they are worried that a lot of these children will now pose themselves as a danger to the society. I heard the VP talking about that the other time. Is there a plan now? Yes, it's not just by giving us a statement, giving beautiful acronyms. How are they going to capture, the necessary data to tackle the issue of out-of-school children?
Okay, so that's where I was going to finalize my point, that the level of out-of-school children is at an alarming rate. If you look at demographics now, the northern part of the country holds over 60-70% of such children as we speak. And deliberately, government needs to put things in place, measures in place to be able to curb that. President Jonathan, during his period, tried to do so much, but he was not supported by the governors, because that's where I'm trying to drive it to. I'm trying to nail it on the table of the governors, because they are the representatives of states. And, education is not exclusively on the federal government list, but to local government and states. And so governors must take more responsibility there. He tried to build Almajiri schools everywhere in the north, and he also tried to feed them so that food will not be a problem, a challenge for them. But guess what? Those schools were empty. Their parents did not allow those children to go because they feel that formal education is different from their own type of education, which is maybe religion-based, Islamic education and all that. So that is a bane. If 70% of out-of-school children is in the north, then we need to go to the grassroots, the fundamentals. If you build these schools, if you put food, if you give them incentives, it does not still mean that these children will go. So you need to start from their clerics. You need to start from those malams. You need to start from local governments and look at insecurity too in that area. The minds of these children are already bastardized because incessant insecurity threats,
you can't even go to the schools.
Most of these schools are empty.
Now, you mentioned 70%, and sometimes I question those figures.
Okay.
How do they come about those figures? Because now, from these dots that I just mentioned, you see that the issue of a census is now being called for because they don't have clear data of how many children are out of schools. So we just sometimes, the government or agencies just throw out figures without proper census. So how are we sure of the real figure of the children out of school, and how are we sure that the census that the president is asking that should be carried out to know the number of the children who are out of this school, all schools in Nigeria from primary to tertiary level, their conditions, living facilities, proximity to one another, educational structures, plus the children who are not, how you understand all these things put together.
Yeah.
How are we going to make sure that fictitious figures do not end up coming in for a particular zone, all in the bid of trying to have a superiority when it comes to figures?
Okay, so the way to answer it is that there's no completely correct figure anywhere. Figures are being manufactured through data analysis, through comparative analysis, and every other model you might want to apply. Look at census now. We've not done census in how many years now? About 15 to 20 years. We've not done census. But you must put figures to be able to plan for data. So if you say, how many are we in Nigeria now? What will you say? What
we'll say 200 million plus.
Plus.
What is the plus?
So that plus could be 18 million more. It could be 15 million more. But because as a government, you need to plan. So you must have an estimate figure for you to plan. And these figures I reeled out to be 60-70% was during Jonathan's period. And sincerely, those figures were correct at that time.
But it would have increased because with this particular resumption, many children didn't even go back to school.
I agree with you that it would have increased. And that's why when we are giving figures like this, you use the word estimated. That's the truth, so that you can move forward in terms of planning. So, but I like the way you reeled out those dots. That is under the plan of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And we hope that they will be able to manage it and get things done. Because the decadence in this industry, in Nigeria, that should be an industry that should be contributing nothing less than about 30% to GDP. But look at the number of capital flight. Education alone, the pressure it puts on FX in Nigeria is a big problem. So if we can solve education, let our children stay in schools here. Once you leave secondary school, the next plan is to take your children abroad. In my children's school, as we speak, they come back and tell me, "Oh, Daddy, 3 of my classmates have left." Even in GSS 3, even in SS1, SS2, they've left. I say, left for where? They've left for the US. They've left for
because
Canada.
They must follow their parents.
Yes, no, they've left for here. They've left. No, some parents are even here.
Just send the children.
Because of their belief in the educational system.
Yeah.
The curriculum too is archaic. Most of the curriculum is archaic, And once you have that mindset that my child will not be able to stand toe by toe with children trained from abroad, there's a problem. And so it needs a holistic view. And I love the trajectory of what you said the government is trying to do. Hopefully, it will come out of it and it works very well.
Because another part of this will now be to carry out a census for all teachers in Nigeria, their qualifications, training, support that they've received, and census on all pupils and students in primary, secondary, and tertiary institutions, gender, exam grades, practically everything. And it's weird that for a country, this is like now we're doing something that should have been done. So where do we now put a ministry that is in charge of this? That you're telling me you can walk into the Ministry of Education in a state and get everything?
That's part of the decadence we are talking about. It's over 20 years decadence, and it's alarming. And I doubt if this ministry will be able to solve it. Are we now talking of, government schools alone or all schools? Do they even have the data of all schools? Some of these schools, they get their licenses from states, not federal, from states. So if federal is saying they want to carry out what is the budget? What budget did they have for the year to be able to do this is enormous. Look at what you just mentioned now. Unqualified teachers are everywhere. Once you graduate from secondary school, in some schools, you are qualified to teach. I'm telling you. And that's not how it should be. You need to go through NCE training and all of that. But do we have that? It's a capital no. So it's an industry that needs a holistic view. It needs to be, we need to sit down as Nigerians and have a direction of where we want to go. And I believe that before the end of this administration, these blueprints will become achievable and Nigeria will become better, because we cannot revamp it in the next 10 years, sincerely. We can't. Every tenure is about 4 years for each tertiary institution. But some of them spend 7 years. Some of them more, because of disruptions, because of government policy disruptions, lack of agreements between their leaders and government, and quite a few. So it's alarming.
With all these type of distractions that we have in place, and the way we found our system to be so far, I know you're not speaking for the ministry, but we're talking based on what we're seeing the ministry, the government, and all do right now. Why would you stick to your gun when families, children themselves are saying, don't peg it down to 18, they're exceptional children, and children today are smarter than what these old ministers and all are. I mean, than what they were then. For instance, some of them, their time, not typewriter that they use.
You are speaking my line of thought.
But now, see, the children are here, and you want to take them back? So What is this government doing? Are they just sitting down and allowing one person, or are we hearing in our hearts, or should we believe what we are hearing in our heart, that maybe that is what the president himself believes? Because if a president doesn't believe this same thought, you call the person to order. Plus, if people complain, why should you stick to your guns?
Well, I think you've expressed my line of thought already. They need to understand the human mind now and before. Do you know that at 12 to 14, a teenager's mind is already formed completely? At that stage, they begin to understand, self-consciousness. They understand themselves, and that is the stage in which we believe that they are fully formed. And that's why the average age as an adult in the UK, is about 15. It's not even 16. In Nigeria, it's 18 by law.
Permanently, since how many years?
And that's where the challenge lies. So if a minister comes and says you must be 18, I do not believe it at all. And that will also cause problem, because I know families who are already saying that my child is going to finish secondary school at 15. What next? We'll send them abroad.
Next? And another thing they're trying to say now, that by next year's curriculum, each one of them must graduate with a skill attached. There must be a skill, and some of the things I'm seeing on that list, makeup and all that.
That's a challenge that we have, and that's why I said that Mr. President needs to look into all of this. Even the coordinating minister too, who is very, very seasoned, should be able to put a voice to this, because if you look at the skill set of what our children should be learning right now, AI is there, robotics there.
No, they are putting makeup.
Aeronautical engineering.
Makeup.
And you say makeup. So, thank you for also buttressing my view, my line of thought. So, you can understand it. And I hope that the ministry is listening to this program for them to have a rethink. We have professors in that ministry. We have, career men who are seasoned, who have traveled around the world.
Maybe their seasoning doesn't have modern times attached to it. So, because I wonder sometimes, don't they have young people around them? Don't they see these young people to know that these young people are totally different from what we were before?
It's a challenge.
That somebody will sit down that, what should we add that these children should have extra skills for? Because there's a lot of makeovers on social media. You're adding makeup in a period where the world is talking robotics. And even though it's there, make them learn these things.
That's the point.
Makeup.
That's the point.
I'm in shock.
And that's why I believe strongly that Mr. President needs to rejig a little. He needs to rejig if he wants the best. A performer does not need time. A performer needs opportunity. He has given these people that opportunity. He needs to sit down, look at their scorecard, and inject new blood who will be able to give direction.
We've been expecting some sack since. No sack yet. Let me quickly read this message, Joseph. Okay. Then you say what you need to say. Good morning, True. There is just saying, if you want to destroy country, just destroy education. Yeah. This is what this government has done by first increasing school fees from primary to university, and they're bringing a student loan, which a low-grade mind, this person feels is not a fantastic idea. Look at the budget for education compared to other sectors. Also, look at the education minister that has certificate issues during screening. People who don't know about education, given low, not high quality policies, they prefer to breed agberos and illiterate people for election gains. Is a shame, this person says. The worst of us ruling over the best. Truly, there was a country. And he also complains about the fact that insecurity, kidnapping, inflation, and so on are making more people come out of school. That is what Dayo from Fagba had sent in as his message.
We are sharing the same line of thought, and I believe strongly that we should, like I said earlier, we should sit down in a round table and have a 20-year master plan. That's the only way we can run it, regardless of the government that comes into play. And that's the difference between a developed country and a country like Nigeria. When you have policies, they follow master plans. It's not every government comes, things change. After 8 years of this government now,
Yeah.
you begin to see another policy, and that's the way it runs. And we need to, deviate from that trajectory. Look at what the vice president of World Bank said. He said that we had tried a reform plan before, but we ditched it in less than 3 to 4 years, and that the government is on the right path, but it needs about 10 years or more.
And we,
for it
and,
to
we, and we
manifest.
told World Bank in pidgin English, Nagogo Georgiana, that we don't want to hear that. Don't tell us that. Is that how you people behave in your own country? That was our answer to them.
Oh,
yes.
that was your answer.
Yes.
But sincerely, if you want us to, digress into the policies of Mr. President.
That's where
and
we are
what-
now. We started
okay,
from
okay,
education.
Okay, so so many things have happened that he has done correctly on paper.
Okay, give me a second.
right.
After this education, we will move to the next one, and let's take the one that things have, based on what you just said about the World Bank, let's look at economic policies now. After Joseph?
Yeah, I was.
Oh, sorry, Joseph. Give me a second. All right.
I think because of our level of education, the way we approach education, that's why we have a lot of problem. I think it was last year, we need to have a seminar here in Lagos,
Okay.
and we were trying to invite some federal government agency.
Okay.
And I have to put a call, please, I want to send the invite to you through WhatsApp or email. They say I must send, almost all the agencies say, you must send hard copy that they will put their stamp, bam. That's where they will be able to feel that.
All those agencies, they are old school. Didn't they see that Bayo Onanuga has said that president and vice president can work from anywhere they are in the country? These ones are saying we should come to their office.
Yes, now, and if all the agents, we have to pay courier, who will carry the person will now carry to them for them to put their
Backwardness.
stamp and bring. So, and that's the reason you see, just like what he's saying, our education is we may continue to, but what's the way out of that? We can't continue this way because people send their children to abroad. When they now come back, now say that we are saying, so yeah, bring barrel and pencil, go to court. You say judge will be writing from morning.
Okay, you know what, Joseph? We already know the answer to them. We don't know the way out for now. Let's come to the economic policies because the time is almost up. It does fly, eh? Now, you
have
agreed
not
with
even
it.
started.
We've not started, though. We'll complete it. Next week will be a whole 1 hour, 30 minutes because that will be my valedictory. So we must,
that would be beautiful.
yeah.
That
So
would
we
be
must. So, now let's come to the economic one because I saw you smile when you mentioned World Bank, and I wanted to remove my glasses to look at you. All right, which of the policies?
Okay, so like I said, it was surprising when World Bank itself came and said that continue with this trajectory, leave it for like 10 years, and you will get to the promised land. Though Nigerians will not want to hear that.
No, because
And
we die before
and
that.
No, we won't. I share the sentiment of Nigerians. I always say that I'm also a Nigerian. And I love this country so much that I want to see it grow. I want to see us, being proud as Nigerians. But we need to, endure for a bit. And so part of the good policies of this president, because I have a problem and I need to air it very publicly. And the problem is that I think Mr. President does not have very loyal people who will blow his trumpet for him. Let me ask, for instance, now, when last have we heard the communications minister rail out some of these things? When last have we heard the agriculture minister, speak about his plans and programs to take us out of food scarcity? What is his plan in the next 3 to 5 years when he knows that food insecurity is part of inflation, about 41%? So some of these ministers, I tell you, that's why I said I believe that his ministries should be rejigged. They should rejig so that we can have the right people in the right places that will continue to blow his trumpet. The president is really doing so much.
Maybe
When he came in,
let me give you advice you could give to them. It's not that you're speaking for them. One advice could be, instead of some of the spokespersons to go online and be fighting with small children on Twitter and saying things that will cause people to get angry, tribal things, they should be doing this thing that you just said.
Beautiful. It's part of it.
Help us, Seda.
No. You know, a minister of agri, for instance, what is the blueprint? We don't know it. What's the food plan? Food security, you know, food shortage. And that's a very, very flammable area that ignites insecurity. Very strong one. And we are not addressing it. So when Mr. President came in, I think the first thing he quickly did through the CBN governor was to clear $5 billion out of $7 billion backlog. He did it immediately.
How many now log do we have?
No. There's no. I'm talking of FX backlog. It cleared $5 billion immediately out of an economy that was almost comatose. 98% of our revenue was for debt servicing. So 98% revenue to debt servicing, and now it's about 63%. It means that it's freeing up funds regularly for capital and recurrent expenditure.
And how has that impacted on the people?
And that's
because the truth, the truth of the matter.
There.
On a very serious note, now give me a second.
Okay.
The truth of the matter is, as far as the man on the street, I am their leader on the streets right now. As far as we're concerned, we want to see the truth is. They want to see how is it affecting the people directly, because if the World Bank said what it said, it may be 100% correct.
True.
But to the average person, it means nothing, because they still can't feed and they're not seeing the impact in any way. This that you just mentioned,
yes.
What impact did it and is it having?
You see, we must, anytime we speak about this government, we must take it back to the last government. And that's the truth.
But it's the same APC.
Well, I don't do politics too much, but we take it per administration. And President Tinubu, yes, they were in APC together, but he's also a Nigerian. He's one man like me and you. How well did we criticize the policies of the last government?
Oh, very well.
No, how well? Because when this man took 27 trillion, ways and means, they practically printed money. It was only a few people that spoke.
The Governor Basiki then.
He was the one that spoke. 27 trillion. Where did it go to? Up to today. The man is in Daura. Who has questioned what he did?
Because he told people, don't disturb me when I leave.
Total loan, 100 trillion. 100. And you say that somebody will not pay for it. You put 1,000 naira in your box, in your safe. And you get to that safe, you find 1 naira. And you don't want to trace where... And the remaining 1 naira is to feed the entire family. And you say they will not go hungry. They will go hungry. But why don't you take time to trace where the 999 naira went to? It went to somewhere. Funds do not get missing. It leaves one end to another end. Where are these funds? And so we must understand that it will take time. Except we want to continue to print money.
But our debt profile has started rising and rising again.
No, debt profile will always rise. But
a lot of borrowings have gone.
Borrowings is healthy for any government, but there's a benchmark for borrowing, which should not exceed about 50% according to World Bank standard of your GDP. You understand? So, and like I just reeled out down that 98% of our GDP, of our revenue in the last administration was being used to service loan. It means that there's no money at all for development, at all. And now, this man has reduced it to 63%. Now, what was our foreign reserve when Buhari left? It was less than $3 billion. Less than 3. As we speak, now it's about 38 billion.
Again, I ask.
And this
how does it impact the ordinary people?
Nigeria?
Yeah.
Now, what I may have done differently, and that's where the human face comes in, where I would have done things differently, was to ensure that there's food security for Nigerians. I said it here the last time or in another station that is what developed economy. They don't joke with. They don't joke with food for their people.
Yeah, you said it
a
last
mind
time.
that is being fed is 50% balanced in terms of thinking. Because if you are hungry, you can't. A hungry man is an angry man.
Can we take a call?
Please go
ahead. Okay. You have to put on your head can so you hear the person. Okay. Hello. How are you?
Hello.
Hello. How are you? Can you hear? Yeah.
Fine. My name is Edna.
Hello, Edna. How are you, ma'am?
Fine.
All right.
This that's your guest today. I don't like what he's just saying. It's just that he's defending the government, defending our president. Why is he doing so?
Ma, he's trying to explain to us.
Yes, excuse me. Is he not the same man that is our president now that said he will continue where the former president stopped? Is he not the same man now that ushered that government in? Didn't he saw these things before saying that he will continue where that previous government stopped? What is he saying here? I don't like what he's saying. So this is that they are the ones that are making Nigerians angry. When they come on air, they will not know what to say. Not to, because maybe he's gaining from them. That is the way they are using his phone.
The line is break. The line is. Hello. Okay, ma. All right. Okay. The line started scattering.
Can I respond to that?
Okay, Madam Edna. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay,
all right,
so,
please.
Madam Edna, I understand your feelings and I share your pain. I'm also a Nigerian, like I always say too. But if Mr. President said that I will continue from where somebody stopped, it's a figure of speech. He has to continue from where the last one stopped.
But there was something she said. Did he not see all these things?
You see, the truth is that you can never see all until you get into government. Government is not like running a small institution. You know, there are caveats everywhere. There are classified information everywhere. It is only when you get into that seat that you see the true nature of the rot in the economy. I tell you that President Tinubu supported Buhari and the likes. You know, yes, I understand the sentiments from Nigerians, but this man has come to do, great things. But it has to take time. I understand how people feel. I'm not an APC member. I'm a technocrat, for about 22 decades. But because I'm a Nigerian and I understand these current policies, there's no way. We need to go through pain, a little bit of pain. And I give examples. Look at China. China locked up for almost 15 to 18 years before they stabilized. Look at Mauritius. Look at India. Look at Hong Kong. Look at these Asian countries. Most of them locked up completely. Before, look at Singapore, a very beautiful example. In the 80s, they were just like us or even worse. But they had to lock up, and, re-identify themselves as a country. And over time, things began to get better. And I believe strongly that if we do not go through this pain, people need to understand these policies. It's not that Nigeria is not growing, but we may say that we are not growing enough. But the bane of all of this is that people cannot feed. Things are quite very expensive in the market. And that's why I said that if the handlers of Mr. President is listening, there are areas they quickly need to work on so that Nigerians can have succor while the reforms are going on. You said something that Nigerians should not die. I agree with you. And that's why I have a lot of issues with a ministry like the Agricultural Ministry. I have a lot of issues about those that project Mr. President. You know, we spoke about food security. It's very key. Whatever we need to do to ensure that there's food subsidy for Nigerians, we must have done it. They should have done it. Whatever we needed to do to ensure that we have transport subsidy, healthcare, mother and child, those little things that, we bring succor to Nigerians while the changes go on. We should have done it.
Okay, well, we have to wrap up this week. We'll do the next round next week. We have just 1 minute. Within that 1 minute, you said something that money doesn't get lost, doesn't get missing. You can trace it. You can find it. So having discovered that this is what Buhari left behind, almost empty, why is the money not being traced? Why is Buhari being left just to get off the hook like that? Is there something we don't know?
Maybe there's something me too I do not know. I'm just like you too. So I think that Mr. President is doing so many things behind the scenes. Look at the trial of the CBN governor. He's still on
The
that trial.
CBN governor did not work by himself.
I
He
agree.
worked with the former president.
I agree with you 100%. And we'll continue to wait and see where the trajectory ends. You know, you have to do everything according to law. And there are laws in this country. If Mr. President goes down and begin to harass people here and there, they will say that it's not following due process.
process.
So he has to follow due process.
You know
And
what-
so we believe strongly that look at the Obaze CBN committee report. It came out with so many revealing things then, and those report has gone to Mr. President, and I know that so many things are going on behind the scenes.
Okay,
I can assure you.
we can continue. We will continue next week because the news is coming up now, and my time here is done. We've had with us the managing director, Capital Plus Limited, Mr. Oluseyi Odufuwa. He's been our guest, and we've been trying to run through some of the policies. And he says, "No, I'm not governmental, but I understand some of the things. That's why let's look at them together." Next week we'll have more time. I've been seeing all the calls coming in, but we can't take so next week we'll have enough time for that conversation to hold, but right now we have to go. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me. I hope we'll have enough time
Yes,
to
sir.
break down so many of these things.
Next week 1 hour 30 minutes, nothing will disrupt us.
It will be fine.
All right, Joseph Lawrence, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'm looking for anywhere they are doing birthday. Let me look
Go
for
and eat free food.
according to Senate
Now
President.
beat, they go beat you. I did tell you. Abiodun JDG, thank you so much. I'm Cordelia Obey. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
If you want to be heard,